personal thing or whatever.
All right,
Yeah.
that's fine.
He texted me last night.
Hold on, Andy.
I will patiently wait.
Yeah, 2 days ago, Weather Underground was saying 3 inches. And then it went to 2 yesterday, and now they're down to 1.
Okay, we're live.
All right. We'll call this meeting to order of the Administrative Committee. We have Director of Community Development Myers. Alderman Adams will not be here today. He has a personal thing he's dealing with. Alderman Stotler?
Here.
Mr. Roth?
Here.
Ms. Barfield? Excellent. So the first thing on the agenda for today is the new business, the Next Site LLC agreement. So do the Steves have something they would like to discuss about that?
I'll let Mr. Roth handle it.
Yeah, just real quickly, of course, the board approved it. We sent in the signed agreement and the payment, and so the next steps are they're going to create, I think, what he calls a base map. I forget, but
Well, I've got 2 documents now to start with. I've signed up to their web page, and then there's a retail research and marketing plan that we need to fill out, and then also a getting started with document that I need to brief myself with. But those are the first 2 steps in the setting the plan up to work with them to start with.
Okay.
yeah, and I don't want to dwell on it, but I think it was an excellent opportunity for us. As you all know, Ameren helped sponsor the program, and it's pretty minimal cost, frankly. And we've not had anything like this ever, to my knowledge. And so for someone to analyze our analytics, someone who's in this business, who has contacts with, commercial developers literally nationwide, for someone to look at our analytics and then potentially make matches is pretty exciting, honestly. I think we're going to learn something, hopefully pretty soon, frankly, about where the opportunities may be, and hopefully make some matches. So we'll see.
Excellent. Anything you'd like to add? Drew?
No, I'm just excited to see that, because like you said, we've never had it, and I think it's some low-hanging fruit to really narrow the focus, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to see it.
I would agree. Excellent. So next is old business, and we have Katie here this morning to give us a presentation on where Red Cedar's at. Is this going to include the budget too, or is that going to be a separate?
I think we'll start with her, and then Katie, I know you have to move on, is that right? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we haven't had her here for a while. The project is certainly, turned a corner toward, I can let her speak to it, but we're not necessarily at the finish line, but we've certainly turned a corner toward the end. And I thought it was a good time for her to come and brief us on where we're at.
Yep.
What do you?
She needs another HDMI.
You're trying to plug into the system? You don't need the HDMI,
By the time Katie doesn't need to do this anymore, we'll have the new system installed.
You want to go over there? It's up to you, or I can put them Did you go dead?
Katie, you can sit here if you wish.
Drew, we should have printed out stuff and used the overhead
The old-
projector
oh,
there.
man.
Wonder if that even works.
With those little markers and the clear,
That's a long time ago.
that was a long time ago.
Yep.
I'm sure other classes used to, but I specifically remember math class and my
Mm-hmm.
math teachers writing out equations and me like Because the lights are dim.
Yep.
How are you gonna flip your pages?
Of course, I think he had vodka in his coffee mug too.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That was probably accepted back then.
Yeah, right? It's a standard issue.
Right, they had it in the teacher's lounge, it was fine.
Go up there and talk to it. Okay.
That rain got rid of almost all the cinders on our road.
I was looking at the.
Close. It was a good storm the other night. We had a clap of thunder that I thought hit my neighbor's house.
Oh, jeez.
It was huge.
Was that Friday night or Saturday? We got storms.
It was Saturday night, I
Yeah.
think, yeah. Or Sunday, no.
I think we had 2 nights with
It was
storms.
Sunday night.
Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Sunday.
Yeah. My apologies.
That's all right. Good morning.
I think we can just work off the paper copies if
Okay.
you want. It'd be just as easy that way.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I think it's been a few months since I came and actually presented an update on Red Cedar, but we'll follow kind of the same format today. I'll walk you through some of the most recent progress and work, the work that's upcoming. As Steve mentioned, we'll kind of go through the financial updates and then talk a little bit about kind of what we foresee as the outstanding risks. So just to recall everyone's memory, the notice to proceed was issued on June 28th of last year. Contractually, we have a substantial completion date of June 28th of this year, so over halfway, getting closer to that completion date, midsummer of this year. So work completed to date, I'll show you in the photos coming up past this, but the construction of the new addition has progressed nicely. The foundations are poured, the concrete slab, all of the under slab rough-in for the plumbing and the restrooms, all of that's been framed, roof truss is set, the roof is on, and actually the cedar siding on that addition is complete as well. On the interior side of things, all of the selective demolition is complete. Interior partitions are framed. The mechanical, electrical, plumbing rough-ins are about 99% complete, and also the fire protection system has been installed. On the exterior of the historic building, the roof replacement was completed back in December, as well as some miscellaneous carpentry repairs to the outside of the building as well. Just flipping through the photos, you'll see on the slides the exterior construction for the new addition, included some photos of kind of that concrete slab showing the underground plumbing rough-in, the exterior framing and sheathing, and then also a photo, you'll recall we had a change order where we had an unstable concrete block wall, so that work has been complete as well. Next page just shows more of the progression of the siding. So the building does have a true cedar siding installed. You can see in the one photo kind of how that adjoins the historic portion of the building, which is kind of an interesting juncture. And then the next photos move into the new addition basement. So in the basement of that addition is the main electrical mechanical room. You can see in the one photo the incoming water service, the backflow preventers for the fire protection system. All of the electrical panel boxes have been set. You can see the wires hanging there that will be terminated at those panels in the future. And then the picture on the far right shows the plumbing rough-ins. You can also see the ductwork, mechanical systems, and that lower level restroom area that will be accessible to the exterior of the building. Moving upstairs, the photo on the top left is in the new addition, actually the genealogy room. The spray foam insulation went in last week in that new addition, so that's good news. All of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing rough-ins are completed there, so we are dangerously close to being able to start drywall in the new addition. In the historic portion of the building, same thing. You can see the sprinkler piping running through the ceiling. All of the HVAC ductwork has been installed. The rough-in for the security system and the fire alarm is being finished. And then based on your approval of the addition of some can lighting and exhibit lighting last week, they're finishing the electrical work for that as well. And then ceilings will be the next thing to start in that space. Photo on the bottom right, or excuse me, bottom left, Shows kind of a corner of the space. You can see the condition of the log wall, just depending on how the rooms have been used in the past, kind of vary. What's hard to see in this photo is actually they've had a mason come through and do repairs and tuck point all of that existing brick base to the interior of the log walls. Last picture is just kind of an overall picture of the site. This one's a little bit old, but you can see the full replacement of the roof here. So we did go with just a black architectural shingle across the building in its entirety. So all of that roof work is complete. We've not had any water leaks in the building, so I think was a good move. We were able to resolve some of those issues that could have been very problematic long-term.
Were there any major issues found when you did the roof that we weren't aware of?
I don't think so. So when Legacy priced up the roof, they assumed a lot of the sheeting underneath was going to be bad. So we had an allowance in their change order for them just to replace that as they found it. And they did actually replace pretty much all of the roof sheeting. So not just the shingles are new, but the wood substrate under that as well was all replaced. So.
Nice. Thank you.
All right, I'll move into the project financial updates. We've had a total of 3 official change orders approved. Also some recently approved change orders. These were from the meeting last week, and then a couple that are pending. So these next couple slides, we'll dive into that in a little bit more detail. The recently approved change orders, you can see here on the sheet that lists them in green. Some of these have just been verbally approved, and I think we need to follow up with formal approval on some of these, but you'll see some of these are actually credits. So we brought to you several of items that we know are adds to the project, but we've also tried to be smart about finding ways to potentially save money. This is the general contractor bringing to us, alternate materials like ceiling tile, even something simple like baby changing stations. By just going to a standard molded plastic in lieu of stainless steel, we're able to save $2,500. So just a couple of decisions there where it's not an impact to the project from an aesthetic or functional point of view. It's just a cost savings that we think is worth accepting to offset some of the ads. So just going through some of these quickly, the first one you see is a credit to remove the projection screen. This was something that was kind of tucked in the back corner of the space. Functionally, we weren't sure that it was the right location for this type of thing. It is expensive to rough these things in. This cost did not include the cost that the city would have had for the actual projector unit, which would have been another, I think it was around $4,000 or something like that. So we made the determination just to remove that system. There is AV capabilities in the back genealogy room, and this is something that we also said could be accommodated with a mobile projector and screen should that type of setup be needed in the building. The next one is the bar room window replacement. This was previously approved. We had some issues with window manufacturers and being able to actually produce windows that are historically accurate and match the front of the building. So this is an increase over a change that was previously approved just to be able to get those windows. Touched on the baby changing stations already. The next one is the acoustical ceiling, kind of in the main museum and open portion of the space. This is something that we worked with both Legacy Contracting, Pattern Knives as the architect, and both Steves to review. So the ceiling that was specified for that space was very costly. There were concerns about the ability to cut light fixtures, sprinkler heads, that type of thing into this ceiling, as well as just its acoustical performance. Knowing that there's not a lot of soft surfaces in the space, we found it to be very important for the ceiling to provide kind of that dampening to potential sound. So Legacy brought to the table a ceiling that still has a similar coffered look to the tile, but actually at a cost savings of over $30,000 to the project. So that was one that we, thought was substantial amount of money, and from an acoustic standpoint, really could provide some benefit to the project. The next few, 26, 28, and 29, these are the ones that were discussed, I believe, at the last board meeting. So this is the revised can light layout in the open museum area, the additional pole light on the site at the rear, kind of near that shared use path, the decorative power station at the pavilion, downlights on the east elevation soffit, that's on the exterior, and then the exhibit track lighting and a couple of power and data changes associated with those exhibit layouts. So for the sake of today's discussion, we know those were all approved last week, so we're showing that kind of in our financial projection as we move forward. So with these, total, you can see up at the top of the page, this would make the current contract value to Legacy $2,230,325.
Can I just make a quick comment? Katie's done an excellent job managing the project. Steve has been the immediate point of contact for the city. Yes, there have been some change orders. There's also been some deducts. Where we're at right now, the total change is about 3% of the original contract value. And viewed from that perspective, I think it's really pretty good. We had some unsuitable soils that related to foundation work and so on and so forth. There have been a lot of changes, but I think in the big picture, they've been managed pretty well. And to be at this point where we're at now with, essentially a 3% overage, I think is pretty good.
Okay. Any questions on those that we just talked through there?
I like the negative 30,000.
Yeah, we're just trying to make smart decisions, and like I said, not impact the aesthetics or the function of the space, but if there's potential cost savings, we're exploring those options. All
Yeah,
right.
and there's been other deducts along the way as well. So, it's been, again, we're not to the end just yet, but so far, I think so good. And obviously, Katie's been leading this from a project management standpoint.
That $30,000 also, Katie mentioned the acoustic value of what we went with. The one that was 30,000 more didn't have those properties, so we need that acoustic property every chance we can get it.
Sure.
And so it was just a smart decision, kind of a no-brainer to make that
Right.
happen.
Yeah. Thank you for fighting for those things.
No problem.
We appreciate that.
And one other item, one of the main cost drivers, we didn't touch on it now, but when we added the enhanced fire suppression, if you remember, and so of the net change, gosh, what was that number? Do you recall right off? I mean, it was 25, 30 maybe in that
I
range.
was going to say right around 30, I think.
Yeah. So, again, I just think we're in pretty good shape, frankly, for where we're at in the project.
Okay, the next page in yellow shows some of the change orders that I'm calling pending. A couple of these are items that we really don't have a choice. It'll be something that we need to move forward with. So change order 18 are some tie-in of the gutters and downspouts to the storm line. This is something that Legacy priced at almost $21,000. They're proceeding on this. T&M, we've come up with kind of a reduced solution to this. We've located the downspouts so that the storm lines are shorter, et cetera. So this is work in progress. They're proceeding on a T&M basis, so we expect that their final cost on this one will be much below that $21,000 number. Item 22, again, is related to some ceiling changes. In the break room and bar area, there was some additional wall framing that needed to be done. This is one I'm hoping we can just make go away. We're tracking it for now because Legacy's identified it as a potential cost, but less than $3,000 is what we're forecasting on that change right now. The next couple, 27A and 27B, I think are up for discussion. These are for electric vehicle charging stations. So I broke this out into two costs, really because I think there's a choice here on, the level that you take this. So actually, the first cost to discuss is 27B. So in order for the building to be able to support electric vehicle charging, we have to increase the building electrical service from 600 amps to 800 amps. And then also we would want to rough in conduits from the electrical room to give a pathway for those future wires to be pulled for the charging station itself. So at a minimum, if the city thinks this is something that they're willing to do either now or in the future, there's $15,000 worth of investment that we need an answer on actually pretty quickly. The second piece of this then, 27A, is the more significant portion of the cost. This is actually to pull the wires, install the charging station, and then I think this includes the 1-year maintenance warranty and kind of operational plan that comes with that charging station. So the charging station itself, I think, is close to $60,000. Pretty significant cost. And then I believe there's an annual fee of about $6,000 associated with that. So this is something we're still digging into a little bit. I think you have time to determine if this is something that you want to proceed with installing, but we're running out of time on the first portion of that I mentioned, which would be the increase to the service and that conduit pathway.
Katie, I'm sorry, I don't have a copy of what you're saying. So the $60,000 is for the unit itself. What was the labor?
I don't have the breakout.
It was a total of 92,000.
92, okay. All right. And then the other thing that I'm a little surprised about is the $6,000 annual thing. What drives that?
Yeah, and that was something Grant and I were actually talking about last week. So I guess in order for the city to be able to access the data from this charging system online, the charging company charges an annual maintenance agreement. I think there's some warranty maintenance and then that access to the data associated with that. It's definitely something we can look into. So if it's something you don't have to pay and still have the functionality of the system, I think, $6,000 a year for one charging station is pretty significant, yeah.
Right.
And in reading a lot of articles lately, I think we have a lot more to discuss about the charging stations. I think we should absolutely do the ability to have it. Like, I think that's the right thing to do, to spend the money to upgrade the service, put the wire conduit, all of that, just in case. But in a lot of the stuff I've read lately, most people are charging at home, they're charging at work, and they don't make a lot of trips that involve them getting there, having to charge, and then going home. So I have a lot more research to do. I'm sure the board will have a big discussion on it. I've been pro putting charging stations everywhere, and I'm starting to question my belief in reading a lot of the stuff that I have recently. So I think it's something we'll have to continue discussion, but I do believe putting the ability to have it there, I think that's worth the spend. Whether or not I'm sure it could be used for something else in the future, but I don't know about the almost $100,000 plus $6,000 a year. Obviously, there's a lot to figure out with that, but I'm not 100% sure about that just yet.
Andy, I agree with what you're saying. There's another concern that I have is that's the assortment of different vehicles that's out there. They all don't use the same port. And so it's kind of like I've told people my phone is so aggravating when I can't find my lightning charger, because they make so many different ones now. And it's kind of like that. That I can't believe that there wouldn't be someday these adapters that would be made so that people would carry them around so they could adapt to different ports as they find them. But, yeah, that's something we need more clarification on for sure.
Absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to say is that St. Louis County, I heard, has a rule now that any kind of new construction requires having the conduits placed to the parking lots, so that when the decision is ultimately made to put in the EV chargers, you can do it. So anyway, that $15,000 spend, I think, would be very wise to do, because it may happen someday that we have the solutions to all this, but
Absolutely.
absolutely worth questioning.
Yeah. Thank you. George, do you have anything there, Steve?
Just echoing both of those, I think we rough it in, and then, who knows, 12 months later, maybe there is that adapter. I don't think we rush out to buy the charging station, but yeah, get it set up for sure.
Yeah, there are some Ameren incentives associated with that charging station as well, so I think that offsets some of the cost. And even the electrician has said too, the cost of these charging stations at almost $60,000 is not very affordable. So if there's really going to be a push for these things, the cost of that is going to have to come down. So it may be something in the future where it's half that, or something.
Yeah, Ameren's program is 50%.
Of the rough-in or the actual station?
The total cost of putting the facility in, they'll give you 50% back, up to $50,000.
Oh, right.
So we'd be right at about the $50,000 mark.
Is there just one I'm just curious, is there multiple, can you shop it around, or is it just, right now, there's only one big player in
I
that
think
space?
there are multiple charging stations that are approved by Ameren, but my understanding is there's only one approved for quick charge, which I believe is an hour or less. I know, Steve, you were looking at this too. So I think there's some where it takes, 4 or 8 hours to charge. That could be an alternate unit, but we didn't think people would be parked here for a full day. We thought it'd be more of a destination if people were able to do that quick charge. So in that case, there is only the one unit that's
And
approved.
I'm a financial guy, so I'm just curious, is there any way to monetize that, or is it just a money pit, basically?
Yeah, I think you can charge a fee for the service. That's all kind of done at the unit itself, but I'm not 100% up to speed on the specifics of how that works and what rate you can charge and then how much you actually recoup
Okay.
when you do that, but
Because to
we can
your
definitely
point,
look into that.
I agree, most people are going to charge at home, but there'll be people from here that go to the Red Cedar, but I would think there's going to be more people from far away that come to so I think it makes sense to, like you said, consider looking into it further. But we're not a transitory town, but we've got a lot of coming and going, and to my knowledge, there's no other station in town.
That's right.
There's no
We're
other
at a-
talks.
Landing Hub has one.
Do they?
Have we asked Landing Hub about theirs? And
Jennifer's shared that they're, it's very little used now.
Right.
But, as I shared in meetings before, all of the predictions out there
Oh,
are
yeah.
that these electric charging vehicles are coming.
Yep.
All the manufacturers are predicting by 2025 that they're like half their offerings is all going to be electric charging, and then it's just going to build from there.
Yep.
So in the long term, it really takes a lot of long-term vision
Right.
and belief in what the information is right now.
Well, even in the short term, though, if you've looked at the pump prices lately,
What's
even my
happening with
dad is
that?
thinking about it, and he's not a
And you
EV
look,
guy.
look at what's happening on the world stage with
Right.
fossil fuel.
Right.
It's just crazy right now, the dependence, and everybody's wanting to get away from it. So I don't think it's a bad move if we do it, but it
I think
takes
it's
a lot
okay
of
to-
weighing it out.
I think it's okay to put in the ability.
Yep.
And then we should see kind of after that what we want to do, but, because range anxiety, which is a lot of the stuff that I've read, is starting to go away now that you're in the 400-mile mark on a lot of these cars. So people aren't as concerned anymore that they're going to run out. And of course, that depends on the individual. I take my gas tank down to 10, 15 miles left before I hit the pump.
Yep.
My wife freaks out when I do that. Some people are way more comfortable with that, some aren't.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing, I think, so, but no, I think absolutely, and obviously we have a discussion at the board level, but I think to put the ability is good.
Right.
And then we just have to do a lot more research on the rest of it, so,
Okay.
yeah.
That sounds like a
thank you.
plan. All right, the last item I'll touch on here, again, is minor. It's listed as number 30. So Steve mentioned we upgraded to the full fire protection system for the building. We've had multiple discussions with the fire marshal regarding the fire department connection. So that's the external connection that the pump truck can pull up to, connect and basically back charge the sprinkler system during the event of a fire. So the original price tag on the location requested by the fire marshal was close to $27,000. We all had a little sticker shock from that, I think him included. So we've worked kind of to a revised solution that he's in agreement with that will locate the connection on the west side of the building as close to the parking lot as we can get it. So the cost for that is $3,600, so that
It's more
felt like a victory
Yeah.
compared to the numbers we were talking about. So that's one that, again, kind of a code-related issue that we've reduced the cost to the extent possible, and with your approval, we'll move forward with that one. So all that said, total contract plus all changes, this would assume the acceptance of the electric vehicle charging, which it sounds like we're going to scale back. So you can reduce that $93,000 off this number. So we're still sitting well below 2.3 million total contract value, assuming all of these move ahead. Last couple of items I wanted to touch on, kind of get into outstanding risks and kind of where we foresee potential still changes pending as we move ahead. So currently Legacy has in their contract a number of allowances that were built in based on some repairs that were kind of hard to identify during the bidding process, and really are based on existing conditions. So these are for things like door hardware, $4,000, hardwood floor repairs, $8,000, $10,000 for wood framing and kind of miscellaneous woodwork repairs on both the inside and outside of the building, and then, like I mentioned, that roof sheeting replacement. So of these, the roof sheeting is complete. We spent actually just over that 4810 that you see in here, by I think a couple $100. So that's one that we'll charge to the 10,000 for woodwork. So all of these are kind of the things that are coming up. We're working with Legacy and Pattern Knives, for example, to understand, the front doors of the building swing the wrong way. So are we better off taking those doors down, trying to reconfigure the hardware, and putting them back? Or is it something where when we do that, the doors are going to be damaged and aren't going to be functional? So there's a lot of investigative work starting to happen on these items. Any costs that it takes to make those changes will be charged against this. If we come in under, that's great. The remainder of that money will come back to the city. But if we come in over, it's something that will be an additional cost to the contract. So same for the hardwood flooring. We were able to salvage some materials that we'll be using to patch back in that floor. So there's been some costs charged against this line item, very minor at this time. And as we get closer to kind of finishes, we'll monitor that cost. And then the wood framing, there has been some replacement, some rafter tails on the exterior of the building. There's some miscellaneous work on the inside that will be done to the log walls and kind of the trims and whatnot, so that'll be tracked against this. So, like I said, these are built into the contract. If we come in under, that's great news, it's money back. If we come in over, it's money that'll go to Legacy. So now that we're getting closer to these things happening, just wanted to make sure you were aware of how these are set up in the contract. All right, so upcoming work, like I said, we're approaching a June 28th substantial completion date. On the exterior of the building, we should be getting close to the window installation and the glass. With the exception of the bar room windows, those have a significant lead time. Will probably be done in July or after substantial completion. Also on the outside, we should be expecting our doors, frames, and hardware. They'll begin the painting of the existing structure, as well as the replacement of that front porch, both the concrete and columns that we had previously approved as additional scope. On the inside, I mentioned drywall will be starting, as well as the ceilings. From there, we'll get into kind of the finished scope of work with painting, refinishing those wood floors, all of the architectural woodwork, completing the bathrooms, and then all of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing trim out, as well as the lighting. Also on site work, now that we're getting into better temperatures, we'll finish up the utilities. So we did have a coordination meeting with Ameren on site on Friday to look at the new building service. I think we'll talk about that tomorrow at our meeting, Steve. They'll begin kind of the parking lot work, and then also to the east side of the building, the location of the future pavilion, there's some concrete retaining walls and kind of preparation of a pad in that area, as well as that shared use path. So next steps, just kind of like to wrap it up and make sure you're aware of any outstanding risks. So we talked about the allowances, not a major risk, but potentially something that could happen there. And then just knowing we're getting into more site work, as I mentioned, the rock seems to keep coming back up. So just keeping in mind that as we finish up site work, hopefully we're above the level of that rock, but always a potential risk given how shallow it is on our site. As we move on here, we'll continue to kind of track those long lead items. Like I mentioned, the bar room windows we know are still out there. But as far as everything else goes, I think we're on track to have all of those materials on site to be installed ahead of that June 28th substantial completion date. noting the coordination of the site utilities and the MoDOT right-of-way work. So Steve's been working on that. Like I mentioned, Ameren was out last week. So I think we're moving in the right direction on those items, but also kind of at their mercy to make sure that they're able to meet our schedule. We talked about kind of acceptance of the elective change orders, so the electric vehicle and things like that we talked through today. We'll get those formally approved and keep that ball rolling. And then really, we're going to be on the home stretch here, so it's starting to get pretty exciting.
So how's the right-of-way going with MoDOT for the parking lot?
Well, for a long time, we had kind of a void in communications. They just wouldn't respond back. And then we have had recent success with that, and I've got an email saying that the lease is in preparation. So that's probably 2 weeks ago. I sent a follow-up, and they confirmed, yes, it is in the works. So we should get it soon. I'll go ahead and follow up again today with Shelley and see if I can jog anything. But yeah, it takes an exorbitant amount of time.
Right. At least it's on its way.
It's on its way.
So is there a cost in leasing it, or is that just contractually that we're responsible for it?
Steve, have you had communication with them about cost expectations?
It hasn't been discussed. I would not expect, if there's going to be any cost, it'd be nominal.
Okay.
One of those
We were
things.
actually acquiring it, I think there'd be a cost, but in a lease situation, I'm not
$1 a year
expecting
or
much,
something like that.
yes.
Right. Okay. Drew, do you have anything for Katie?
No, thank you for putting that
Yeah,
together.
thank you.
Nope, thank you.
Just one heads up, the change orders that require immediate action, if you can just send me an email on those, so
Okay.
we can get those packaged up. The next meeting is the 15th,
The
a week from
15th,
tonight.
okay, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we have some that we've talked about and just need to roll those all into one formal approval.
Yeah,
so-
like the electric service, for example.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks.
See you in the morning.
All right. Is there anything else to add about Red Cedar today? Anything to add? Drew, anything?
No, sir.
Kim, do you have anything to add? No, sir. Awesome. Well, then I would call for an adjournment.
Well, actually, can I just discuss the budget?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's fine.
Okay.
I know you all got it last week, and there was some discussion on it. Tourism is going to meet on it later today, and I think the main thing that I'd like to get a little bit of feedback on is, Kim and I have discussed this, and we think it's best to run it out of tourism. And what that means is, all the revenues and expenditures related to Red Cedar would all be run out of the tourism fund. By ordinance, tourism has oversight of those funds. And we think that's the better model. And because then, tourism would kind of be like the first line of review. And, as we move forward with the director position, the director will bring tourism various budget items and so forth. So we like that idea. Now we could, alternately, run it out of general fund, where the tourism oversight is really just a fund transfer. It changes a little bit how tourism operates because, it's been a good functioning commission, but this is honestly more work for them. And, I would hope that they're, willing to take that on. And again, we'll discuss it more later today, but is there any feedback from you all on just the basic structure of it?
I guess my only question is, it's just oversight, like they couldn't veto, for instance, or anything like that. No, I kind of like the first idea, just having that level, them there first.
I would
Yeah, they
agree
would
that I
have
think-
no actual authority, just to be
Right.
clear. They would be a recommending body.
Gotcha.
The budgets would be subject to board approval, any of the expenditures. Once a budget is set, of course, it just sort of runs. But let's say in the future we want to do charging stations. Well, that would first come to tourism and then go up to the board.
I like that version of it. I'd be interested to see what tourism has to say. I assume you're going to ask them today.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Mhm, right.
Because I do think that having a body to go directly to, and then, I don't know, I mean, like you said, tourism runs pretty good, and I've never heard of any issues or any concerns. And I think that would probably be a good kind of middleman to help manage some of those things. And then we move forward to the board, just like we normally would with any other position.
Yeah, the tourism director position would, of course, report to administration, right? But when it comes to kind of policies and kind of the big picture, I think the Tourism Commission, of course, is, probably the best option there. Most of those members are either in tourism businesses now or they were, and they're just better. I mean, I would defer to them. What do you want this tourism director doing, right? We'll work on the day-to-day stuff, but kind of in big picture, marketing, what sort of activities or promotions, right? I mean, I'm not the best guy for that. I mean, really, the people within the tourism business are going to be much better to have those provide that direction. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Yeah. So I hope tourism is up for it. Yeah, it's you guys know it's a big project, and we are going to ask a lot of this tourism director. But we'll see. We've had a fair amount of applications. Honestly, I can't say we've been inundated, but we've got again a pretty good candidate pool. I did post on a regional museum group, and I don't think we've really generated anything off of that, but. Within the next week or two, we'll start working on the selection process. So.
Nice. Awesome. Very good. Well, then I will now entertain a adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Great meeting.
That's because Katie's here.
Katie was the all-star.